Ready or not. Ready or not. Here I come. Can't hide. Gonna find you and then yo. I play my enemies like a game of chess where I rest. No stress if you don't success.
Today we're joined by a beautiful guest,
Yes.
Chaneak Hoover.
Yes.
I'm so excited to interview
I am
you.
too.
Oh my God. This is a beautiful Black woman. I mean, she is amazing. She does some amazing work. And I can't wait to get into this interview. Y'all are going to find out the importance of entrepreneurship and Black women in business. Chaneak,
Yes.
please tell us about you.
Oh, what could I possibly share? No.
Tell it
Okay, so what do you want to know? What like
Tell me, what line of business were you in before you started entrepreneurship? 100%.
So I started out as a social worker.
Okay.
So I started out as a social worker straight out of college.
Okay.
And I worked for the Department of Children and Family Services for about 15 years.
Okay.
In that process, I was really sad. Like I was really sad about where I was. I've had this feeling for, it's almost like it felt like forever, like just even like as a young child, like this feeling of I'm supposed to be bigger. I don't know if the word is bigger or just higher. What's the proper term for that? Like I don't know what the proper term to say. What I felt internally,
more than what you.
Yeah, internally, I've always felt like I am supposed to reach lots of people.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably the best way to describe it. I've always been a very social person. From a young child, I could say that I was a therapist from a little girl. I grew up in a bar. And so I come from entrepreneur's parents. My father was a thief, but he was an entrepreneur. He ran his own business. He had a hustle. And my mother owned a lounge.
Okay.
And so from the age of 2, I grew up in a bar. And I would talk to the people in the bar every day. And they would tell me their lives like a little girl, and they would share their lives with me, right? And when I look back on it, it's like I've always been a therapist. I've always been a person that like feeds somebody, right? So moving into entrepreneurship wasn't difficult in the people side, but it was difficult in the learning how to live from not paycheck to paycheck. Because when you first start out, right, in working, you end up working and you get a paycheck every 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's real easy. You go to work, you come home, that's that. Right? And I think that when I started in social service, I was there because I was supposed to touch the people that I touched, the lives that I touched. I didn't just teach them, but they taught me. They taught me about how to work with difficult people. Being a social worker, it taught me about resources and how you had to be able to multitask, and you had to like learn how to like maneuver and function off of like multiple different things with minimum resources available, right? And be successful at it, because it was always important that that I was able to like change somebody's life. Okay. So when I started in the balloon business, it was really just because I had a baby, and I came from, my mother was really grand on birthdays. Like, remember, she owned the tavern, right? Mm-hmm. And every year she had this huge birthday party. And this birthday party, we would have matching dresses. And and that was made. She used to get these dresses made. And it would be I don't know, probably 200-300 people at her birthday party. And I was like with her, right? They was like her friends was my friends. Crazy. And so in that process of these birthdays, I wanted to be able to pass that same thing off to my child, these grand birthdays. But I was a social worker, so I had no money. No money, right? I think at that time, as a social worker, I think I was making about $18,000 a year. There's no way I could have a birthday party grand at all. I could barely pay my rent. And so I started doing crafts myself. Like I used to make these personal invitations that were like really detailed, and I would learn how to do the balloons and these gifts, and like I would want like a carnival theme, and it would have like all of this stuff, or if it was a princess theme, it would have all these personalized details to it. And I found myself people started asking me to do their parties for them, right? So that's kind of how it was, but I was still a social worker. So I was a social worker, and I was doing these little parties, but kind of like, playing with it.
So you was a social worker and you was a party planner.
Yeah, which was a big mistake.
Okay, so you're gonna have to tell us. You're gonna have to tell us about the big mistake.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
So, what would you say your corporate life looked like? I know you said that you felt like you was sad, you was depressed, or you wasn't getting to the masses. Okay, so the financial was the problem.
Yeah, it wasn't the work, because the work was good, right? But I always felt like I was underpaid.
Okay.
Like I felt like I was in this environment where I was feeding the people, but it was like the environment that I worked in was a really like uncomfortable environment as far as being appreciated.
Okay.
And I know a job is not supposed to appreciate you, right? I do understand that.
But why not though?
Well, because you're there to provide a service to your boss.
Okay, but
you're there to do that.
In order to keep your people happy, they have to appreciate you.
I carry that on to my business, right? Because that's something that I experienced, and I felt like I was not appreciated in the work that I did. So I do carry that on to my own business.
Okay.
But really, she didn't hire me to appreciate.
But really, that means her leadership was not top tier.
That's true.
Because you could keep people. One thing we do know in the social service field, there's a high turnover rate.
Yes.
And in order to keep people, you need to make sure that you honor them and you respect them and make them feel welcome.
Yes.
Like I need you here.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why I think the high turnover rate is because nobody feels and then a caseload is very high.
Oh, it's hard. So social service is hard. And it's hard because you never stop working. It's not like a factory job where you in your shift and then you go home. Right. Social work, you carry your people home with you. And so because you carry your people home with you, you're constantly working. Like in my social work job, my clients knew my kids because I was going after hours, or I'll pop up on a Saturday, or it was always like whatever the job needed is what I provided, right? But I didn't feel in return with finances. Like I was struggling.
Okay.
Like really financially struggling.
Okay, so let me also add this. Audience, she has a husband. So she's saying that although it was a 2-parent household, that she was still struggling because the pay is not there. And I don't care if she was making $90,000 or over 6 figures, she was working 24/7.
Yeah.
If her clients know her children, that means she is spending time with them that she should have been spending with her family.
Yeah, definitely.
That right there means that you're not being paid enough, period. So we need to get some little clarity there on that.
And the only reason why I survived is because I did have a husband, and he had a pretty good salary, right? So he had a pretty good salary. So this is how I survived. But when you are a young lady, educated, right? there's a level of that you want to gain or maintain your independence. And so, although I had a husband that could pay the mortgage and he could pay the light bill and the gas bill, there was things that I enjoyed in my lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a lifestyle.
She do.
I have a lifestyle. And I just found myself struggling in the lifestyle that I wanted to live. You know, and it was like, it just felt so unfair. Yeah.
When did you
I gotta get focused.
when did you feel like you were out of alignment? I know that you was feeling sad or feeling like you needed to touch a larger amount of people. Like your character is larger than life.
Mhm.
I know that for sure, right?
Yeah.
So I know that you feel like you should have been hitting more people. So in your corporate life, when did you feel like I'm out of alignment and I got to go? So I know that you were in corporate America and your character is larger than life. That is who you are. Your character is who you are. And often you don't really change from your character. So when did you feel like you were out of alignment and you felt like it's time to go?
Okay, so I first started with adjusting. It was actually the people around me. Uh, so we had started, it was a group of us that had started together straight out of college. And as my peers had started to grow and leaving our location, um, I was still there, and I could see the growth that they were having financially that that I wasn't experiencing. Um, so I had decided that I was going to allow my children to get out of um, grammar school because the job gave me a lot of flexibility. And I needed the flexibility to be able to go on field trips and like all these things that was important to me as a parent, right? And so I had made a decision that after my kids were getting out of grammar school into high school, that I was going to transition to a new job. I wasn't thinking entrepreneurship though. I was actually thinking therapist.
Okay.
And the reason why I wanted to become a therapist is because, again, it was something that I felt like I had always been. It was my comfort level. It didn't feel like work. And I felt like we really needed some healing. And as Black people or people of color, therapy was always, I would hear clients always say, like, I don't feel comfortable, or I don't like my therapist, or they don't understand me, or they don't relate. And I felt like that was a place that I could be in, that I felt like, oh, I think that I could get people to heal. Like, I think I can help people heal in that position because of who I was as a person, right? And I found myself being a therapist without the licensure, right? So I had made that decision I was going to do that. And so I had went back to get my master's. And then when I went back to get my master's, I had got my master's in addictions counseling because I had decided that I was going to be a sex therapist. And I had decided I was going to be a sex therapist because there's a lot of trauma surrounding around sex. And I think that in our healing, that if we could be able to heal our sexual traumas, it would really help us in our personal relationships, be it marriages, friendships, like all these things. There's so many connections between our sexual past and our present and our trauma. And so I had decided that I was going to do that. And in the process, I was still doing balloons. And so when I was, and my girlfriend had told me about, she was at a school, and she was telling me that they was firing the girl who they were doing the balloons. And so she's like, and I think she went to balloon school. And I was like, balloon school? What is that? Okay. And I'm an advocate for school. I go to school for everything, right? So I ended up going to balloon school, and I went to drapery school. And so I went to learn to do draping and balloons. and still not really thinking entrepreneurship, just kind of thinking this is fun, right? And I remember I still like to do the parties and all that stuff, and I had really went to become the balloon person at my girlfriend's school. That was like the base of it, and I was also working at becoming a therapist, and so COVID happened, and I felt like I think I could get my freedom papers. Like, I think I could do this. My son was graduating from 8th grade. My daughter was already gone. She had graduated from cosmetology school. And I was really coercing my husband into quitting his job, right? And I was like, I think I could do this balloon thing, right? And so COVID happened, and schools could not have graduations indoors. So they needed outdoor graduations. And they were calling me to say, hey, can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? And then I had established relationships with these schools. And before I knew it, I went from like one school to 15 schools during the graduation period. But in that process, I still was a therapist to the people in the schools. Because remember, it was COVID. So they were having all these emotional things. And I cannot just walk past somebody. And if I see it, I got to work on it. Right? And so I had started developing relationships with the principals and the clerks and the teachers and the deans and all of this, right? And so I think that my people skills is what escalated me to entrepreneurship. So I had like I was talented in the craft side, right? But balloons is something everybody can do. It's not really like, I know what you're going to say, but really it's not that hard.
It is not something that everybody can do. That's why we hire people to do it, because we don't know how to do it.
I think balloons are a luxury, and I think that people can do it, but you hire me to do it because you don't want to.
Because we don't know how.
Right? Okay. That's cool.
Because we don't know how.
Right.
We're going to go with that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
It is
that's
people
good.
that probably know how to do it and don't want to put the time into doing it.
Yeah.
But it's a hell of a lot of people who don't know how to do it,
yeah.
and they're going to pay somebody to do it.
Yeah. But I mean to say in that it's a saturated market.
But your creativity.
Yes.
Everybody don't have that creativity.
Yeah, because I can visualize a scene.
Right.
Like I can visualize a scene and I can produce it.
And you can help someone bring their dreams to life.
But what I found was that I'm still a therapist, right? So in this track of entrepreneurship, I went from 0 schools to 15 schools in 1 year. Then the next year, I went from 15 schools to like 25 schools, right? And then, and you got to think about it like this was a hobby that just kind of exploded into a business. But I don't know if it was solely based on me having skills in craft. I think that my people skills is really what escalated my entrepreneurship. And I think that the reason why I can enjoy this experience so much is that I still am healing people. Because remember, balloons are for funerals, birthdays, like all these emotional situations. And what I find myself doing is when I get a call and they're like, oh, I got to have this, I'm going right into, okay, listen, anxiety is this, and da-da-da-da, and tell me about what's happening and what's going on. And, so again, I'm still a balloon therapist.
I'll go with that. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
I'm a balloon therapist. And so in my next pivot, I'm incorporating balloons in therapy.
Okay.
Because I cannot run away from being a therapist.
Okay.
It's innate. right? And I just think that the balloons give me creativity. It gives me my own therapy. It's my own outlet.
Mm-hmm.
But my job in life, my purpose in life is the people. My purpose in life is to assist people in being resilient. And what better time to be able to work with a person is through an emotional situation. 50th birthday. Oh my God, the anxiety is so high. I can't believe it. I got to do this. I got to do that. Okay, let's talk about that. Let's work through that. Hold on, let me help you organize that.
Okay.
Now, let me make it clear. I am not a event planner. Let me make that very clear. There's a difference between a balloon artist and an event planner. But I think that this next pivot is really going to focus on how can I, because I have to go back to resilience. I have to go back to healing people. And how, but I don't want to let the balloons go. So how do I become the two?
Okay. So let me ask you this question. You say that you are not an event planner, but you used to be an event planner.
I did. Big mistake.
You have to tell us about why that's a big mistake. But you were an event planner and did a really good job at being an event planner.
Yeah.
Now you do balloons and you find that with balloons you're able to incorporate the therapy inside of, because of the emotions. The emotions still run high with the event planner, but it don't give you that freedom to talk to the client because you have to be so busy into planning the entire event.
Right.
And so with the balloons, you got an assignment, plus you can add in the therapy part of it too.
Right.
Okay, so when you left corporate and you kind of transitioned into it, because you was, like you said, you went from 0 schools to 1 school to 15 schools, then 25 schools.
Yes.
So you really transitioned into, the doors just opened for you. Which is amazing. And that's one of the things that I want the audience to know is that once you put your foot out there, once you start, I mean, everything just opens up. You don't know where it's going to take you.
I had no idea.
Yeah, you never know where it's going to take you.
No
but
idea.
So all you got to do is put your foot forward.
Yeah.
And often I think where we allow fear to set in and stop us from going forward and allowing the doors to open up all the way, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But entrepreneurship means that you have to rely on when that paycheck coming, when that check coming, all these medical benefits and things like that, right? So when you're dealing with, I got a mortgage I gotta pay.
Yeah.
Oh, I got a car note I gotta pay, or I got insurance. Oh God, the baby just stubbed his toe, and I gotta take him to the hospital. When you have those things that are important and it's a necessity to take care of you and your family, entrepreneurship seems scary.
Very.
So tell me, how did you move the fear out of the way?
Ignorance.
Explain.
Ignorance.
Explain.
Because I had no idea that all those things existed in entrepreneurship.
Okay.
I just did it, right? I had no idea that when you lose your insurance, and it's like, whoa, you got to tell your son, he said he hurt himself, and you said, well, baby, come on in here. Mama going to use her EMT license because you ain't going to no clinic. We're going to have to watch that for a couple of days, see if let's see what happens.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Okay. You catch a cold, and you used to just go to the clinic. Now you at home working on that yourself, because when my husband had excellent insurance, right? When he left and I left, right? We still had the COVID, remember? So we had insurance for about another 2 years because we had Cobra and all of that. And at the end of that, I had got into the plan and all that stuff. It was like $1,700 a month. That was a lot, right? So I was paying that, and just it was a lot. And so I ended up having to make a choice. Like, do I pay my mortgage or pay my insurance? And I had to pay my mortgage over insurance, trying to decide on what to do. But I had not foresaw that when I walked away. I didn't foresee that you get a check every 2 weeks. And then when you're an entrepreneur, you may bring in $45,000 one month, and then the next month bring in five or three or $500. You got to get off your ass and you have to work in order to make sure that you get paid. Like, it is totally different. Entrepreneurship is not luxury. Like, it takes time to become luxury, an entrepreneur. And I came from an entrepreneur mother who made it look easy, right? So I didn't know those type. I knew we used to go to the county, right? When I grew up a county kid, going to sitting down there. I didn't know we used to go to the eye clinic. Like, I didn't know that we was going to the place because we didn't have insurance. You know what I'm saying? When I used to like be complaining about something, and she'd be like, we'll wait on a couple of days to see what happens. I didn't know that was because we didn't have insurance. Okay. You know what I mean? So I think that the ignorance of not knowing about all of those things, because I might have been more cautious in how I stepped away. I think I still would have stepped away. Okay. I think I would have stepped away more as a therapist than a balloon artist. Okay. Because as a therapist, it would have been more stability, right, in it than the balloon artistry. Okay. And I think that the scariest part for me, and it's still for me, is not making enough money. Like, when you're an entrepreneur, and sometimes I have really good months and I do very well. And if it's slow, I might not bring in but $2,000. So you have to learn how to budget. You got to learn how to be able to make sure that you can maintain. I have an inventory that I have to maintain. Like, I sometimes I don't sleep. Sometimes it may be, I may not sleep for 2 days. You know what I mean? You get a nap, and then you got to get up and get back to working. Like, sometimes the stress of entrepreneurship is not for the meek. Like, you better be ready when it's time, when you decide that you're gonna step out. I suggest everybody step out if that's what you want to do, but I think there's preparation that needs to be done. The other thing that I have learned is we don't know the business of business, and there is a business of business in entrepreneurship. I had no idea about creating a payroll for myself. I had no idea about how to structure my business correctly. Like, all of these things that I just did it. You know what I mean? I just did it. And I think that is the difference between the haves and the have-nots. And that's between, if we talk about Black women, or we talk about where you come from, that kind of thing. I think that other people that come from families of wealth, they have infrastructure. We don't have infrastructure. We have hustles. You know what I mean? And hustles they sustain you only so long, because there will become a day where I won't have earning potential. And if I didn't have that first half of the work experience and the paying into Social Security, and like, my husband didn't have the pension, the 20 years that he paid into his pension, and all of those things, the day that we no longer have earning potential would be a scary day for us. So my best advice is to learn to be an entrepreneur first. Learn the business of business, and then you step out. There are so many things that you must learn first. entrepreneurs and the social media make this shit look so easy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I just did this and now I got this and I'm making $45,000 a month. Lies.
Tell it.
Lies.
Tell it. I mean, honesty is what we
Lies.
need because
Yes.
social media will make you think that somebody is making $45,000 a month and they just living a life of luxury. And
Lies.
that's what put people who is their audience believing when some of them homeless,
Yes.
some of them sleeping in their car,
Yes.
some of them sitting in front of a beach.
Yes. Because they live there.
Yeah. And they walking past through a hotel and not staying in the hotel.
Yes.
They asking, can I see a hotel room?
Yes.
But they're not staying in a hotel room. Those are things that they got them believing.
And it's so many mistakes that you make. My best advice as an entrepreneur is to build a team. Structure yourself. Learn your business first. Learn the business of your business. And then structure yourself a team. And you can't afford the real team, right? So that means that you need to reach out and ask for advice and meet you an accountant and meet you you need a mentor. Like, I think that a mentor, and not just a mentor, but a mentor who is successful.
True.
That's like, there's lots of people out here that's false flagging. So meet you a mentor who is successful and take their knowledge and then apply it to your business. And trust your gut.
Okay.
Trust your gut on, okay, that might have worked for their business, but I don't think that really worked for me. But maybe I could take a couple pieces out of that.
Okay.
And apply it.
So therapy has been in your nature since you was 2 years old, basically.
Yes.
You've been doing this for, if you want to put it, you've been doing this for over 40 years now, right? If we're going to go with 2 years old, you've been doing this for about 40 years. So this was rooted in your purpose. Everything that you're doing is rooted in your purpose.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that you mentioned, make sure you're having a mentor. I like the fact that you mentioned, make sure that you know what you're doing, right? That you have the guidance that you need. Just because you've been doing therapy since you was 2, you still had to learn, right? You still needed someone to guide you. You still needed mentors even in therapy, right?
Yep.
You still had to go to school and things like that. Now, we can look at school as a tool. It's not always a university, because you can get certifications and things like that.
Right.
I want to be honest on the fact that I know school is expensive.
Yes,
you
it
know,
is. Yes,
I know
it is.
that an education can be expensive, but let's go back into how you said you get your financials together. You can use those as write-offs.
Yes.
Certifications can be write-off with your taxes and things like that.
Yes.
But if you don't have the right guidance, you don't know, right? So you just taking a class and don't recognize that you could use those. You could write those off.
Plus, you need the money to take the class.
Right. You definitely need the money to take the class.
You gotta get the money to take the class.
But sometimes you got.
Maybe when you're an entrepreneur, you might have to wait on that money to come through.
But sometimes people don't even know that you're going to apply for grants. Some people don't even know that there's some money sitting out there waiting for you.
Oh, I need to explain about grants too, because I've been there too. And that comes from my social service background. When you apply for a grant, there's allocated money for everything that you're supposed to do with that grant.
Definitely.
And people take grants and they like, oh, now I go buy a car.
No,
or
you can't.
Yes.
If the money's not allocated for a car.
Exactly. Or you want to live off of it. You cannot do that. This money is allocated for whatever it is allocated for. So be selective in the grants that you request.
Okay. So tell me this. And all that you've done, what's your proudest moment?
Let me see. What is my proudest moment? My proudest moment is probably the fact of my referrals. And that is that people call because I have touched somebody else.
Okay.
And I come like, I think that feeds my soul.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that somebody says she is good enough to refer to somebody else. That means a lot.
Okay.
One time business, to me, is okay, right? But it's those people that keep coming back. That's my proudest moment, is that people keep coming back.
Okay. Okay. And with the people coming back, they also referring other people.
They do.
Yeah. So business is important. So that goes back into how you was talking about with social service, and I was saying it's the leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you knew you worked at a good job, right, for a
Mm-hmm.
good company, you would say, "Hey, we got some openings over here."
Yes.
You would refer somebody
Yep.
and you will refer somebody that you know who
Yep.
wants to work.
Yep.
You will refer somebody who you know is good at what they do.
Yep.
And you'll be like, oh, and we also have a good supervisor, a
Yep.
good executive director.
Yep.
If you don't have that, then you don't get the referrals.
That's true.
You don't, your business closed down.
It
It really do. I mean, you can see how social media can break or make a business.
Yes.
You really can. You can see how
Yes.
social media can
Yep.
make or break a
Yep.
business.
Yep.
That one person say, I came here and they stole my money, and the place could have been up and running and excellent.
Yeah. I think that what people forget in entrepreneurship is that your boss is your customers.
Uh-huh.
I
Yeah.
think people
Yeah.
forget that.
Yeah.
Like, I think that they get so self-absorbed in their own thing that they forget, like, no, you got a boss.
Okay. Okay.
And you got lots of bosses when it's your customer.
So with that, can you tell me, what do you feel like you had to unlearn going from corporate to entrepreneurship?
Oh, the money. The money. That was a big transition for me. And I think it was because I didn't just lose one salary, we lost two.
Okay.
And so learning to budget is difficult.
Okay.
When you didn't have to, and because you got expenses, right? You got business expenses and then you got your life expenses. And I had to unlearn not commingling the money.
Okay.
Because I was living from a routine for 20 years of you get a paycheck and then you balance that paycheck
and then the next paycheck
comes, right? So you always know what's coming next. And in entrepreneurship, it's not like that. Like, if I don't get out here and work and hustle and pull clients and all of those things, then there's no money coming in.
Okay.
And because my husband and I work together, that is our sole income.
Okay. So your husband and wife duo, huh?
Yeah, that's another thing that's an adjustment. That's another thing that's an adjustment.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to ask you this question, and this question goes back to corporate and today. What did peace look like to you, or what did success look like to you prior to stepping out on your own?
Okay.
And starting your own business.
All right. So peace to me prior to stepping out was probably a day off.
Okay.
A day off from work, vacation, not having to go into the office. Okay. Right? Success was different than peace.
Okay.
Working. Because peace was more like, okay, the time is mine, right? Freedom was peace. Freedom is very important to me, right? And so, but success was for me when a client was able to emancipate from DCFS independently and be able to live on their own. And if I was able to groom and put in and teach, and they were actually able to apply those skills and be able to be successful, then that was success for me. That looks different now.
So what does success look like to you now?
Now it looks like if I can meet my quota.
Okay.
Yeah, because now I set a quota for myself.
Okay.
That was something else I learned.
Okay.
Like I need to set quotas on how much I need to earn every month,
Okay.
right? How many customers I need to bring in. How much do I need to make on each sale? You know, those kind of things. So now is if I meet my quotas, then I'm success.
Okay. Okay. What is it that you would like to share with other Black women who are choosing entrepreneurship? I know that you said get your finances in order, get your training. Is it something that you would want to share just on a personal aspect?
Oh, learn balance.
Okay.
You learn balance. That is something that I'm really striving. So here's a really funny thing about this whole moving from corporate to I went from a job where I just talked, right? My job was anger management classes, parenting classes, home visits, resources, right? I just used my brain. I went to a job where I got to use my body. That's backwards. that's backwards. Like I was supposed to use my body in my earlier years and use my brain in the later years, right? So I think that I would say is learning balance, learning to take care of yourself, learning to be able to put the hours that you need to in your business, and then learning to put the hours into yourself, and then learning to put the hours into your husband and your children. And it's only so many hours in a week
or a day,
right? So you have to, I would say, learning that balance of making sure that you take care of you.
I want to thank you. This is amazing. You have done such an excellent job as an entrepreneur. I thank you for sharing the good and the bad, because often someone will just tell you all the good part. Like you said, oh, I make $45,000 a month. But the reality is you need to have balance, right?
Yes.
The reality is not just balancing your mental, balancing your financials too, right?
Yes. Key.
Yeah.
You hear me? Learn how to manage that money before you walk out.
and I greatly appreciate this opportunity, not only because of just the sharing of your knowledge and you being so brilliant, but how deep in the story you went into. You know how this really has transitioned from you being a child.
Yeah.
You watch your mom, you watch your father, you watch your parents start businesses, and currently we're in Chicago, so Chicago is called the hustle.
It is.
And it is.
And they hustle.
Yeah, and they hustle. And so
they hustle.
this is things that even in back in those days, it wasn't called entrepreneurship. I'm hustling.
Yeah.
You know, it went from the man on the corner selling bean pies or cigarettes.
Right.
It was a hustle.
That's right. That's right.
But their money was their money.
Well,
And they did not allow somebody else to be their boss, right?
yes.
And the title of this series is Unbossed and Unbothered.
Yes.
And the reason why is because sometimes you have to walk away from the toxic workplaces.
Yeah. Yes.
The workplaces that are having you work 90 hours a week.
Yep.
24/7, where the people, your clients, know who your children are.
Yeah.
You're never supposed to mix work with personal life, right?
Right.
But you end up doing that, right?
Yes. Yep.
But it's because your heart is in it.
Yep.
It's but sometimes your heart ain't in it. It's I got to make the money.
Yep.
But for you, your heart was in it, right?
Yeah.
But in you went and you expressed to the people to let them know that this is real life, right?
Yes.
But you have some great days and you enjoy what you do.
Oh yeah.
Therapy is in your heart.
Yeah.
So it's your purpose driven.
Yeah.
The balloons is extra.
Yeah. It is.
But it allow you to reach your audience because like you said, it's parties. So that means it's thousands of people or hundreds of people that's going to come, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're not just talking to one person. you're talking to hundreds of people,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
You're on display. You're
Yep.
encouraging people to see what I'm doing, but not just see what I'm doing. I'm here to help.
Right.
You know, I'm here to solve a problem. One thing I will say I appreciate about your business is that you don't really leave, right?
Right.
You don't. You like, okay, what else you need? You know, you don't.
That,
You
that's the
but
therapist in
yeah,
me.
that's the therapist in
I
you.
cannot go to an event and just set up
Right.
and go.
Right.
Because then I see all this other, when I see the event planner in there going crazy and I've done my part, what can I do?
Yeah. Yeah.
I step right
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
because I can't, it's just innate, right? To help, to be there,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
function.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I can't leave you behind.
Yeah. So I want you to tell me about your business. How can they find you? On which social media platforms? I also want you to end it with what would you, how do you feel? Even with doing this interview, does it feel like you could help someone, or how do you feel just in general as being a business owner?
Yeah. Okay, so it's also Fabulous Balloons and Events. I can be found on Instagram, also Fabulous 10. Um, Facebook is also Fabulous 10. Um, my website is also Fabulous Balloons and Events.com. And what was the other thing?
Just tell us, what would you like to share? How do you feel about doing this interview,
Well,
or how about being an entrepreneur?
I'm really excited about the interview.
Okay.
I'm really excited about the interview because I hope that somebody listens, and when you're ready to walk out, that you walk out educated and not book smart, not just book smart, right? I want you to work out with uh, the knowledge of the business and the financial aspect of the business, because we start so many businesses and they fail, and it may be a great product, but it fails because you don't have the other half of the business, the background,
The
the back
infrastructure.
the infrastructure, the background, right? You don't have that, and so you need to get your infrastructure together first. Do not walk away from your business. I mean, don't walk away from your job until you have your infrastructure. All right, like that's really important, because I want people to remember is that we all have a time where we will not have earning power anymore. You could become sick, you could get old, you know, your husband could become sick, your kids could become sick. Life happens, right? And I want you to be able to be in a position where you don't just fall apart because this one thing happens. And if you have a solid infrastructure, then you can be able to weather through.
I always
And
like
be authentic.
with the people.
Be authentic with the
Okay.
people.
Okay.
Like,
Okay.
that's really important. Like, be authentic. What I find in my business, uh, and I keep finding this with Black women, is that we're not very friendly. How can you be in the balloon business and not be friendly? Like, who does that? You know?
It's happy occasions.
It's a
Good
happy
occasions. Yeah.
occasion, right? Like, you are in any business that you have, typically, you are providing something for somebody. You're solving someone's problem, right? And so I want you to remember that you are solving someone's problem, and you need to be kind and authentic and receptive to whatever your client is.
I thank you for sharing your last words, your comments to our audience. I appreciate and hope that they receive everything that you have, because you are definitely feeding them.
Okay.
You are definitely
I hope
feeding them.
so.
You
I
definitely
hope
providing
so. I
them
really
with
do.
knowledge and tips that they need
I
to
hope
take
so.
before stepping out,
Yeah.
while stepping out, while living this life, not believing everything that's on social media. Not
Yes.
saying that social media is a lie, 100%
No,
a
because
lie.
there's
It's not.
some authenticity
Yeah.
to it. Yeah.
But
yeah.
because
Yeah.
you're sharing your truths.
But they show the good.
Yeah.
Yeah. They
And
show
I
the
appreciate
good.
you sharing that there's some
Yeah.
downfalls too.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you once again.
And I like to say, like, my daughter,
She don't want to stop.
Right, I don't want to stop.
Okay,
right?
go ahead.
That's,
she never stops.
You know why? Because I'm a therapist, and therapists never stop talking. Say hello.
You ever notice we look alike?
Hello.
Go ahead.
So my daughter is now walking out, right? So she's transitioning from, she's a wax therapist, right? And so she's transitioning from corporate to her own suite. And I am really, she's 25. So, you know, she thinks that customers just come because I did a video. I did a video, so now I'm going to have 10,000 customers coming here, right? So I really am trying to teach her the business of the business. Like she needs to have 65 clients to walk away from that job.
Okay.
You understand that? You know how hard it is to get 65 clients?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so just teaching her just that one thing, that you need 65 clients to bring in this amount of money a month, made her say, oh, well, maybe I can quit. Because she was quitting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
She was quitting.
Okay.
And then what happens when you quit and you don't have gas money to get to your suite?
Or keep your suite.
Keep it.
You know, really? Because
Yeah.
That's one of the things that you shared in regards to not quitting your job prior to, or having your, and use that money right there that you're getting, even if you have to put a little bit aside, so that you can have something to fall back on, something that you can say, okay, I can last at least 6 months. You know, I mean, step out there. We had already talked about it in the beginning. You don't know where it's going to lead you to. So you can open up the doors and you could say, oh, I'm a do waxes, but you never know, it could take her to somewhere else. Or somebody's like, okay, well, I got a larger suite and you can do this, and this. Or I can teach you. You got that mentor. So there's a lot of things that you spend some knowledge now. You spend some knowledge, you know, even with sharing it with your daughter, because you said she's 25, so that's the younger audience that needs to know that too. And that's and also, she was ready. She was ready to quit. Don't quit. I said, well, how you gonna be? It is the truth though, right? You have to give them reality, right? You do have to wake them up to reality. Your car won't go nowhere because you ain't got no gas money, right? How you gonna get there? How you gonna eat? Like, you know, how you gonna open the doors? The best thing I can provide you is a roof over your head. That's the best thing that's the best thing I can provide you. You quit that job before you got 65 clients, you better figure it out. But that's just something that is really important to understand. And this is why you need mentorship. Because if she didn't have me to be able to say these things or lay it out for her and show her, you know, then she would have just quit her job and went to the suite and then been sitting in there waiting on people to come. So do that mean that you are offering mentorship? Sure. Okay. Of course. Okay. Of course. Absolutely. Okay. Great. Feed everybody. Okay. Well, she'll be supplying that information too. She is a therapist. Yes. She is a licensed therapist. I'm a balloon therapist. Yeah. Not only that, she's a family therapist as well. Didn't you hear her say she's a sex therapist as well too? Yes, so I mean, she does therapy literally as a legal business. Yes. She also does balloons, and that's her heart and her joy. Even though therapy is her heart and her joy, but therapy can be sad. Yes. Balloons can be happy. Yeah, it was a nice balance. It's a nice balance. Yeah, it was a nice balance. Because I always say that, especially during COVID, therapy was very heavy. Okay. It was really hard being a therapist during COVID. And the balloons gave me an opportunity to have some happiness. So let's go here. Even with, like, when you said COVID was sad, if somebody came to your door and placed balloons and some flowers or something like that at the doorstep, it make you get rid of that thought of
Yes.
COVID is about doom and gloom.
Yes.
It's like somebody brought some light to me. So
Yes.
you're right. The balloons does bring, that is a form of therapy too.
Yes.
It's a healing
It
therapy.
is. It is.
So
It is. It's
she's a balloon
connection.
therapist, like
Yes,
she
I
said.
am.
So I
Doing-
mean, that might be a side business. She
Also,
did say that
fabulous
already.
events
Yeah.
where we balloon and balloon.
See, there she goes. She got her own line. See? So no, but thank you, Miss Hoover. I greatly appreciate it. I wish you and your husband and your family much success.
Thank
Your
you.
daughter is amazing and what she do. So I wish her much success too. And we will be interviewing her too. So just wait. Yeah, I'm gonna show you everything. So but if you're looking for her, you can find her on all social media platforms. And she's also gonna offer some mentorship too. I might even try to see what I can get out of this too, you know.
Not
Okay,
this one.
okay.
Not this
Not
one.
this one,
Not this one.
Look, see? I love her so much.
I love you.